King Charles has just made a decision that could destroy the British monarchy forever. At this very moment, Britain is facing its worst constitutional crisis. In 200 years, the government has lost control. The people are rising, and King Charles stands before an impossible choice that will define his reign and may even end it behind the palace walls. Chaos reigns, the royal family is in meltdown. The Prime Minister is holding crisis meetings. Every 6 hours, as 5.2 million Britons have shattered every political record in UK history. What began as ordinary political frustration 3 weeks ago has spiraled into a full-blown national emergency. It started with a simple petition demanding immediate general elections, posted quietly on Parliament's official website. Within 24 hours, it had 100,000 signatures. Within 2 days, 500,000. By the end of the first week, over 2 million Britons had signed. But the numbers didn't stop there, though. They accelerated 3 million, 4 million, 5.2 million, and climbing hour by hour. This is now the largest political petition in British history, larger than the populations of Scotland and Wales. Combined, this isn't a fringe campaign. This is a nation speaking with one voice. Louder than it has in generations. Inside Downing Street, the atmosphere is one of pure panic. Advisors describe a bunker mentality, as senior officials work 18-hour days to contain a crisis that is slipping completely out of control. The Prime Minister's approval rating has plunged to 18%, lower than during the expenses scandal, lower than Brexit chaos, lower than any government in modern British history. Yet the most terrifying number for Westminster is this: 73% of voters now believe the government has lost the right to govern. That isn't just political disapproval, it's a collapse of democratic legitimacy. When 3/4 of a nation believe their government has no right to power, the result isn't merely instability, it's a constitutional breakdown. Social media has become the command center of a digital revolution. The hashtag general election now has trended globally for 8 straight days, generating over 2 billion impressions. TikTok videos of ordinary Britons demanding elections have hit 150 million views in 1 week. YouTube creators are gaining hundreds of thousands of subscribers overnight by exposing government failures, while Instagram and Facebook are flooded with calls for democracy. It's not just young people. Pensioners are posting videos demanding change. Small business owners are sharing stories of economic collapse. NHS nurses are describing their daily struggles across every generation and region. The message is united. We want our democracy back. The economic impact has been devastating. The pound has fallen 4% in just 5 days. As investors panic over Britain's future, the FTSE has shed 80 billion in value. The Federation of Small Businesses reports that 71% of its members want immediate elections to restore stability. Major corporations are preparing contingency plans for a potential government collapse. The governor of the Bank of England has held emergency meetings, warning that political paralysis could trigger a full-blown financial crisis. But the crisis is no longer limited to Downing Street. For the first time in decades, the anger has reached Buckingham Palace. Demonstrators have begun gathering outside its gates, with signs reading Charles, choose democracy or puppet. Photos of these protests have gone viral around the world, showing the monarchy under direct public pressure. Not seen since the death of Princess Diana, inside the palace there is fear. King Charles's approval rating has dropped below 50%. For the first time since his coronation. A warning shot that has terrified royal advisors. They know the brutal arithmetic of monarchy. Once public faith is lost, the institution itself stands in danger. Charles is now trapped in an impossible position. If he dissolves Parliament and forces elections, he risks being accused of staging a royal coup, violating 300 years of constitutional neutrality. Conservative MPs would brand him a traitor to parliamentary sovereignty, and international allies would question Britain's democratic stability. But if he stays silent, he risks being seen a complicit in the collapse of democracy itself. The king who protected a failed government. As his country fell apart, his silence could destroy what remains of the monarchy's credibility. Behind closed doors, Britain's most powerful figures are scrambling. Constitutional lawyers are working around the clock, unsure of what legal powers Charles actually holds. The last time a monarch dismissed a government was in 1834, when King William IV fired Lord Melbourne. Nearly 2 centuries later, Britain is once again in uncharted territory. Palace sources confirm that Charles has quietly held private meetings with constitutional scholars, legal experts, and former prime ministers including Lord Butler, Sir John Major, and Tony Blair, seeking advice on how to navigate the most serious constitutional crisis of the modern era. The royal household itself is divided. Younger advisors, many aligned with Prince William's generation, insist that neutrality is impossible. In the face of democratic collapse, you can't be neutral between democracy and authoritarianism. One source told the Times. Traditionalists, however, warn that any royal intervention would destroy centuries of impartiality. They argue that 1,000 years of constitutional monarchy depends on staying above politics, no matter how severe the crisis becomes. Meanwhile, international pressure is intensifying. European leaders have privately urged Britain to resolve its crisis before it destabilizes the continent. Germany's Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, reportedly called Charles directly, warning that prolonged instability could damage EU-UK relations. France's Emmanuel Macron has postponed a planned state visit, citing constitutional uncertainty. The White House issued a rare late-night statement, emphasizing the need to respect democratic accountability, diplomatic language that translates to fix this immediately or face global consequences. Even NATO officials have requested briefings, concerned that a destabilized Britain could weaken the alliance's second-largest military power. Inside Westminster, MPs across all parties are preparing for a cross-party vote of no confidence, one the government is almost certain to lose. If that happens, convention dictates the Prime Minister must resign, but insiders suggest he may refuse, claiming that calling elections mid-unrest would reward mob rule. If that defiance occurs, Britain would enter constitutional territory unseen since the English Civil War, a direct conflict between Parliament, government, and the Crown behind the scenes. MPs have quietly contacted military liaison officers to discuss contingency plans in case protests spiral beyond police control. Officials stress this isn't about military intervention, but about preventing complete breakdown if public order collapses. Across the nation, protests are growing by the hour. In London, Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Cardiff, Glasgow, and Belfast, families are marching together. Conservative and Labour supporters are side by side. Brexit and Remain voters are united. Police forces admit privately that they are unprepared for sustained nationwide demonstrations. The Metropolitan Police have requested support from other forces, while intelligence agencies warn that extremist groups could exploit the chaos to spark violence. MI5 briefings warned that even a single violent protest could ignite a chain reaction, leading to nationwide unrest. Inside the palace, Charles is spending hours each day in private deliberation, weighing decisions that could define Britain's future. For generations, a national television address has already been written, but its contents remain one of the most tightly guarded secrets in British politics. Will he side with the people and call for elections? Will he defend his government and risk being branded as democracy's enemy? Or will he attempt a fragile middle ground that pleases no one and prolongs the agony? Meanwhile, organizers are preparing for what they call Democracy Day, a coordinated national shutdown in which transport workers, teachers, nurses, civil servants, and millions more plan to walk out simultaneously. Analysts warned it could cost the economy $15 billion in a single day, triggering the biggest disruption since the 2008 financial crash. This crisis goes far beyond politics. It's about whether 1,000 years of British institutions can survive the digital age, whether the monarchy still has a role when democracy itself hangs in the balance, and whether the bond between ruler and ruled can be restored before it shatters entirely. King Charles has spent 70 years preparing to be monarch, but nothing in royal history could have prepared him for this moment. His decision now will echo through British politics for generations. The survival of the crown may depend on whether he chooses the people or the politicians. Britain stands on the edge of its greatest political transformation. Since World War II, the government is cornered. The people are united, and the king faces an impossible choice that could define it or end the monarchy as we know it. The entire world is watching to see whether British democracy survives or dies in the next 48 hours. Behind the palace walls, the tension is palpable. King Charles is reportedly holding constant, private consultations with senior advisors, constitutional experts, and former prime ministers. Every option before him carries immense risk. A televised address has already been drafted, one that could either stabilize the nation or ignite a political inferno. As of now, no one knows what the king will say, if he announces his support or for immediate elections. It will be seen as a royal intervention, breaking centuries of constitutional precedent. But if he chooses silence, he risks being branded a coward, who stood idle as Britain's democracy disintegrated. Organizers across the country are planning what they're calling Democracy Day, a mass-coordinated national shutdown. Teachers, nurses, transport workers, and civil servants are all preparing to walk out in protest. United by one message: Britain needs new leadership. Economic analysts warn this could cause losses exceeding $15 billion in a single day, plunging the UK into the most severe disruption since the 2008 financial crash. The Bank of England fears the domino effect in panic in the markets, plummeting investor confidence, and potentially the unraveling of Britain's global credibility. Meanwhile, foreign governments are watching with alarm. European leaders are quietly expressing concern over Britain's instability. President Macron has postponed diplomatic meetings. The White House has issued veiled warnings about maintaining democratic integrity, and NATO officials are demanding security briefings, amid fears that political chaos in London could undermine the alliance's strategic balance. What was once seen as the bedrock of Western democracy is now trembling at its core.